going on, folks? Listen, quick word for whoever, okay? Listen, right now, many of us are in this season where our focus needs to be, God, what is the name of this season, right? For a lot of us, it's like, quieting our mind, quieting our heart, and then figuring out exactly what we need to be in this season. 9 times out of 10, you need to be growing. I'll say that again. 9 times out of 10, you need to be growing. Right? Like, for example, I'm in a new season right now in my life, right? And I always know anytime I step into a new season, the first step God always requires of me, because I've noticed patterns, right? The first step God always requires of me is grow. Grow in a way you've never grown before. Use what's worked, but grow in a way you've never grown before. Why? Because your schedule, even though the premise of it may look the same, you might have to shift a few things. You might have to wake up at a slightly different time. Right? You might have to read a little bit more, right? You might have to be more strategic, right, about how you read, so that way you're retaining the information. My mentor always says, right, learning doesn't happen on the inhale, it happens on the exhale. Meaning, as you're consuming content and you're putting more content in you, whether it's through YouTube, whether it's through social media, good content, of course, right? Whether it's books, whether it's you're reading your word, whether you listen to sermons, whatever it is, right? When you're putting that stuff in you, the learning hasn't occurred yet. It's when you take a piece of a loose leaf paper, right? And you start writing out what you got out of what you just heard. That's when learning happens, right? It's when you call that friend or that family member, or you make a video, right? And you start discussing to that person, right? About, within an hour of like inputting that information and the outputs you took from it, how you're going to make it practical, how you're going to add it to your life. Right? And so that's how we become a bigger person. And why do we want to become a bigger person? Because when you're a bigger person, guess what? Circumstances, right? They're lunch. The people who left your life, to each your own. Good luck to you. Like, you're just not worried about them. Why? Because you're on a mission. You need to be a bigger person because God has given you this grand, massive vision. Right? So let's take the time in this new season. It's March, let's take the time in this new season to go, okay, man, how does this season right here play a role into the 4-generational vision that God has given me? How does this season right here play a role into making sure I become a person of greater integrity, greater character, right? I was speaking to a lady yesterday, because God opened the door for like this new business opportunity. And it's crazy. Yesterday I made a video about how like I told God I'm not doing a 9 to 5, and I had no idea like the entrepreneurship I was going to go into or what kind of an enterprise. And then like before yesterday was over, right? God opened the door through my brother for an opportunity that is just it just blew me away. And so our first like potential client, right? Let me change my words. I'm a king. Our first client, right, was a lady we sat down with yesterday, and beautiful, amazing woman, and she, we were just kind of like building rapport, and she was just telling us how like, listen, the best way to have a great marriage is you got to become the husband way before like the young lady comes into your life, right? And it's going to take time. So now like one of the things that I've added was, God, make me into a great husband. Like, y'all know I'm not dating. I'm not entertaining nobody, right? I'm focusing on me. And I don't say that to like, oh, good job, Johnny. No, I say that because like, I need to be focused this year. Right? I say that because I don't need to be distracted this year. I say that because I know like whoever God has for me, right, there's an appointed and a set time when we're going to meet, right? But all of that plays into being that bigger person. All of that plays into like being the king, right, that I know that I am. All that plays into like, being the future father, because all of this fits into the vision that God has for us. Right? Like he made each and every single one of us for a specific purpose, right? But before we step into that purpose, we need to understand, right, that we get our identity from the King of Kings. That's the only way we're going to know that we are a king. If you're a lady watching, that's the only way you're going to know that you're a queen, right? So like once you like align yourself back with God, right? Like our number one priority is to become. Our number one priority is to grow. Our number one priority is to recognize the season that we're in so that there is no confusion. That's why a lot of times many people will say, like, listen, if you know truth and you stand on truth, you don't need anybody else to believe what you're doing. You don't need anybody else to believe in where you're going. You don't need anybody else to like back what you're doing, because God's going to open the perceptions in the eyes of the right people who's going to get you to the next step of where you're trying to go. Because ultimately what you're doing in your life, it's just a doorway for God to use anyways. Ultimately, your life is just access for God, you know, to help you cultivate, right, the kingdom he has sent you to on the earth through your gifts, through the resources he's going to provide, through the relationship he's going to provide. So you don't need anybody else to believe in what you're doing as long as you're operating in truth, right? But until like God gives you the next step, we just need to become, we need to grow. We need to be reading like we've never read before. Right? We need to have a set of affirmations, right? Royal affirmations that we're speaking into our lives, right? When we need to understand, like, a lot of people who don't understand what we're doing, right? Like, they're sometimes their voices are there as distractions, right? And we got to use truth, the word of God, right? Our faith, right? To cut through that like a scalpel. Right? All the enemy can do is try to distract us, right? And how does he distract you? By wasting your time. Right? When you have a vision, when you have something that you're going after, like, time is your best friend, because every day counts, every hour counts. Right? And so this is a special message for anybody who's in the season, you know, similar to me, where like, you know, God is doing something profound in your life. You know, there's a vision, right? And that you are in the gap between this to make sure that you set up the next generation, the third generation, the fourth generation, so that your great grandkids, right, can benefit, right, and propel, you know, the kingdom that God is asking you to initiate, right? Based on what you're doing right now. You are in the gap right now. So you don't have time to waste. You don't have time to be doing what everybody else is doing. You need to be strategic and intentional in spending a massive time with God, so that, you know, every single day, right, you're adding another domino, another piece to the puzzle. Right? And so I won't make this video any longer than it already has been. But like, understand, you're a king. All right? You're a queen. And there's a mission for you to do. And there's a gift inside of you, just like there was inside of me. And we need to be refining that every day. And then we need to serve it to the world. And if all of us do that, if all of us, you know, step into our royalty, right? If all of us figure out what that thing is inside of us that God placed in us, our work for us to do, and then we all serve that to society, right? And whatever aspect that we're supposed to. Do you understand we can literally change the world? And I don't have to compete with you, and you don't have to compete with me, and she don't have to compete with her, and he don't have to, because what's ours is ours, right? And as long as I do my thing and you do your thing, and she does her thing and he does his thing, guess what? We all win, right? So I love you guys, and I hope this word blesses you. Johnny out.